Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. It's been a while since I've recorded. I've had a lot of stuff going on. Lots of good stuff though. So, I'm feeling good about that, and I've been super busy, but I really am back in the mindset and the groove of doing podcasts. Um so thanks for joining me again. This one is going to be about something that I feel like we all hear all the time. And because we hear it all the time, it gets annoying and it gets boring and it loses its significance. And what I'm talking about is the word consistency. I used to roll my eyes all the time when I heard people say, you just got to have consistency. You just got to have consistency. Just keep at it, keep at it. Because like I've talked about before, a lot of us don't want to have to wait a long time for something to happen, for us to see results with something. And we just hear, like, no, you got to keep at it. You got to keep working at it. You just got to be consistent. And we're like, oh my God, I don't want to have to do that. I want to do something and it's just going to give me tons of results really quickly. But most things don't happen like that. Or if they do happen like that, they aren't sustainable. And so I think over the last few months, I've really started to realize how important and how meaningful and how successful consistency is. So I think the problem was that we just hear it so much that it gets annoying and we don't actually give it a chance. And so I'm going to go through some examples. Some of them relate to my life. Some of them I just randomly thought about. But I think the way that it finally set in for me and was no longer annoying, like, oh, freaking consistency. It was because I saw it in multiple different ways in life, my life, other people's lives, and it just set in. So, the biggest thing I can relate this to, that is a big part of my life, is with weight. And a lot of us want to lose weight fast. So, that is why we go on these diets that they sound awful, but they promise quick results. And so, say you're on this 2-week diet and you're supposed to really restrict your calories, no going out to eat, no alcohol, and you're supposed to work out 6 days a week. They're these really tough workouts, only drink water, blah, blah, blah. All of these rules, which, some of the rules can be good, but if you're going from not having this lifestyle and all of these, healthy aspects or healthy habits, and you're going from not having them at all to having a whole bunch all at once, that's really hard. So say you go into this diet, you actually do stick to it, you're miserable, but you're losing weight, which a lot of the weight loss is going to be water weight. But say like you see the scale go down and it's happening, you're getting results. Okay. So now once this diet is over, what tends to happen? You are just craving all the things that you used to have. You now possibly hate working out because it was such a chore and the workouts were so strenuous that you just take a break from working out and you dread it. And you just start to eat the foods that you gave up and you start to not work out and you can just easily gain all that weight back. And so then you get down on yourself and you think, I suck. This is my fault. Or another thing could happen, which is You try the diet, but it's just way too hard, so you just stop doing it before you see any results. And then you think, again, I suck. This is not for me. I am meant to be at this weight. I'm meant to be fat. And we just start to believe this. But if you approach this in a completely different way, it could change everything. And, I have a degree in nutrition and I know this, but when people would tell me, "You just got to be consistent," I'd be like, "Oh my God, stop with that." But it's the same thing I would tell other people. So I finally decided to just give it a whirl. I'm going to be consistent. I'm not going to set all of these extreme rules that are super hard to stick to because we need to think of this as a long-term thing. It is something we're doing for the rest of, the rest of my life. I want to be living healthy. I don't want to, I was real with myself. I don't want to give up Chipotle forever. There are going to be some times that I want Taco Bell too. So if I go into like a diet thinking I'm never going to have this again, it only makes me want it more. And to be honest, I don't want to give it up. Okay, so let's incorporate it somehow. So instead of saying I'm never going to eat Chipotle or Taco Bell again, let's say I'm only going to eat it twice this month. And consistently over time, even though I am still eating those things and they're still in my life, the weight loss will happen if I'm, incorporating other healthy habits. I don't need to necessarily work out 6 days a week or for an hour at a time. I could do 30 minutes at a time. I could do 30 minutes one day, 60 minutes the next day. I could do 10 minutes. I could do something super fun, like going on a walk or a bike ride. It doesn't have to be like a hardcore workout. And I can let myself have healthy foods and unhealthy foods in the same day. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And so this was very uncomfortable in the beginning. I'll admit it was very hard, and I did fall off the wagon a couple times and go back into that diet mindset for a couple weeks, and then it was just miserable, and I'm like, I'm sick of being miserable. So I thought, I've tried everything. Let's just give this whole consistency thing a try. Give up the all or nothing mindset, allow myself to have good and bad things in my life, and let's just think of this as a marathon, not a sprint. So I've been doing that. It really has helped because if there are weeks where, depending on where I am in my cycle, I am hungrier, I'm craving things, instead of thinking, oh my God, I suck, I have no self-discipline, I think, okay, let's give yourself a little grace here, and that it might just be 4 or 5 days that you're eating a little more than you would like, more than you usually do, eating more sweets and salty foods than you would like. But it's okay because it's going to balance out, because this is a long game, not a short game. That over the course of your whole cycle, the whole 30 days, there's just going to be 4 or 5 days where you're craving more bad things than usual, but it will level out. And so I let myself, eat a little bit more, have a little bit more sweets. There was one night where there was like a fourth of a carton of ice cream left. And in the past, I would have just been like, screw it. Like I already took one bite. I'm just going to finish the whole thing, whether I'm still hungry or not. But I reminded myself, this is the long game. I don't have to eat this all today and then say, I'm just never going to eat ice cream again. This is the last time. It's my last meal. I'm just going to binge on everything. I can eat a little bit, save the rest for tomorrow. Just because I ate a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow doesn't mean everything is ruined. And so I allowed myself to eat this might sound stupid, but I still ate like 3/4 of what was left. But the fact that I left this much in the container was huge for me because it was more symbolic rather than like how much was left. Like I could have easily eaten the rest, but it was more of a symbol of I have the power, not food. Food does not have the power over me. I can leave this much in the container. I could eat it tomorrow and, nothing is ruined. And it took away the sense of helplessness and the sense of fear and all or nothing mindset. And so over the course of the month, I did finish the ice cream, but I didn't feel the need to, once I started eating the ice cream, to binge on everything else. And I knew that my calories would level out, and they did. Same thing with exercise. There are some weeks that I just don't want to do it that much, or the kids are up a lot at night and I'm tired and I just feel lazy and don't want to do it as much. Just because I'm not working out 6 days a week for 1 week out of the month, I'm only working out 2 or 3, doesn't mean that, just throw everything away and eat like crap because, well, I'm not working out that much, so I might as well not eat healthy, or I might as well not do any workouts, because that's just a destructive mindset. It's way better to get in a couple workouts and still eat pretty healthy than to say, screw it, I just won't work out at all and I'll eat like crap. Because it's the long game. Over time, you'll see that it's better to, have some good and some bad, or some healthy habits, some unhealthy habits, rather than say, I need to be 100% good all the time, 100% of the time. Because how many times has that worked? If it works for some people, that's great. But I feel like most of us need some of those treats in our lives. Some of us need to take a little break from working out sometimes. It's even good for our body. So getting rid of that mindset that it's all or nothing, and thinking of it as more as like, let's just be consistent. Do healthy habits more of the time than the unhealthy ones. Over time, it'll be okay. And I am seeing changes. So that is the way that I started to really think, okay, consistency, they're right. It is about consistency. And I'm really trying to build muscle. And if I expect myself to build muscle in a month, like have really a noticeable difference in my muscle mass in a month, I'm going to be disappointed. Because first of all, as a woman, it's harder and takes longer to build muscle. But second of all, that's something that requires more time. So there were times in the past where when I first started to lift weights, I'll admit, I did, what was it, P90X? And I went hard on the first day. I lifted so much weight. The workout was like an hour and a half. I was just exhausted. And the next day, I couldn't move my arms. And it was really embarrassing. I had like T-Rex arms. I just couldn't move them. And so I didn't know what that was called until after it happened to me. But I was a little bit frightened, and not going to lie, I gave up lifting weights because I was like, well, that is horrible. But then, like over a year later, I realized I just went too hard. I expected too much, too fast. And so it's better to, progressively increase the amount of weights you're lifting, increase the amount of time you do it, and you'll see results, but it might take longer than you wanted it to. And so instead of thinking, I want to build noticeable muscle mass in a month, I multiplied it by 3. I said, I'm going to give myself a few months. And I really did notice a difference because I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself and expecting myself to, look like all those people I see on TikTok. That had to take a long time for them to build. all that muscle, multiple years, especially with women. And so when I thought of it as like a long game, it doesn't have to happen in a month. Yeah, also, why do I need to build all this muscle in a month? Why am I setting these unrealistic, crazy, stressful goals? What's going to happen if I don't build all this muscle in a month? Nothing. So might as well just take my time and do it the right way. So then I started to really think, how does this apply in other areas? Well, what about saving money? So say you want to save $500 towards something. You do a budget and you see, okay, I can save $50 each paycheck. So how long is that going to take? If you're paid twice a month to get to $500, you're going to save $100 a month then. It'll take 5 months. Okay. I mean, it's not as fast as you might want it, but at least you know the numbers. Or if that's too much pressure on you, you can save $25 per paycheck, and that will double the amount of time it'll take. It'll take 10 months now, but it's still going to happen. You're still gradually chipping away and we'll get to your goal. Just because you might not be able to save the $500 right away doesn't mean you should just say, never mind. I'm not going to try. I shouldn't be, saving this money. If I can't do it all at once, then I'm just poor. So isn't it better to gradually chip away at your goal than to just not do it at all because it's not going to happen instantly? The time is going to pass either way. So even if you can only save $50 a month, those 10 months are going to pass, whether you save or not. So why not save what you can? Wouldn't you rather reach your goal, even if it took longer than you would hope, than to not reach it at all? I even started thinking about it in the opposite way. And this might sound really stupid, but I was going to the bathroom and I noticed that the last time I had washed my hands, I must not have pressed the faucet all the way down because it was dripping a little bit. And as I was peeing, I was thinking, okay, that is not a lot of water that is being wasted. But if that were to stay on for a long period of time, that little amount of water that is being wasted each second is going to add up. And that could really affect the bill. A little leak over time can really cause, you to waste a lot of money. But if it were just on for a few minutes, it's no big deal. So consistency applies this way as well. That little drop of water over a short period of time isn't going to do much. But those drops of water over a long period of time can do a lot. And so I was like, oh, it goes both ways, and it can be applied to huge things in life. It can be applied to stupid things in life, like what I'm thinking about right now while I'm peeing. It was super random, but it started to really click with me. So something else I thought of, I know I bring this up a lot, but when you're pregnant and have kids, like your whole schedule just goes to shit. So when I was pregnant, I was just so tired and I gave up reading. Reading used to be like a huge part of my life. But pregnant and postpartum, I was just so tired, didn't want to do it, didn't have the motivation to get back into it. And so I stopped reading. But then I would think about reading and I would see my books and I'd get excited. But the feat of me actually opening the book and reading it was so overwhelming to me, as silly as that sounds. But I thought, I finally had an epiphany one night. I'm like, what am I expecting of myself? Am I expecting myself to pick up a book after not reading for a couple years and just finish the book in 1 or 2 days? So I thought, what if I just set a goal to read 5 pages a day even? I'm still going to finish the book at some point. It might take a while, but it's better than not reading a book at all. So I realized I had this all or nothing mindset, and this mindset that it had to happen really quickly. And I had this mindset with reading too. So in my mind, I was like, okay, if a book is 250 pages, I need to read, 50 a night and finish this thing in less than a week. Why? If that is no longer possible for me, or if that now just feels like really overwhelming, or if I get so tired, like I'll fall asleep during reading if I'm trying to read that much, why do I just need to give it up completely? So I would try to do that. I would try to read a lot. And what happens is that I would, even if I did say read 50 pages in a night, I would be so tired that I'd fall asleep a lot, keep waking up and reading the same paragraph over and over, or I would zone out, or I would be like, okay, I don't enjoy reading anymore, but it's not because I don't like reading, it's because of the way I'm doing it. It's like a chore, I'm forcing it and trying to do too much. So I would read, say, 50 pages of this 250-page book in a couple of days. But then I wouldn't want to read again for a while because of how miserable it was. So then I'd wait a week or two and be like, okay, I gotta read the next 50 pages. Well, by the time I started reading the next 50 pages, I didn't know what was happening because I had read the first 50 pages so long ago and I wasn't really engaged in it because I was so tired and it just felt like a chore. And so I just gave up on the book because I didn't remember what I had read and I didn't feel like rereading it again. So then I thought, wouldn't it be better to just make a goal of reading 5-10 pages a night? Or even if I miss a day here or there, it's okay, because even though I'm reading a little bit at a time, I'm doing it more consistently. So if I read 5 pages, if I read 5 pages last night and I start to read again tonight, I had just read those 5 pages the night prior. So I'm going to remember them. Okay, so now tonight I read 10 pages. Now, tomorrow, what if I only get through 3 pages, which has happened because I fall asleep? And then the next night, I just don't want to read. But then the next night, I do read. I might only be on page, I don't know, I lost track, maybe 15 or 20 over the course of a week. But I remember what I read. And if I keep going at this slow and steady pace, I will finish the book without having forgotten what I read, without zoning out, without falling asleep, and without giving up. And so I got to the end of my first book after, a couple years of not reading, and I thought, how crazy is this? If I had kept the same mindset of that I did before, that I have to read large chunks of the book at one time, I would never have read this book. And I was holding the book in my hand and I felt like, because I still need to read actual books. I just hate reading on like a Kindle. So I'm holding this book in my hand and I'm like, I loved this book. It was like my humorous murder mystery books that I love. And I thought, I loved this book. I remember all of it. Like it's very vivid in my mind. And I only read about 5 pages a day on average. And I thought to myself, imagine if I read 0 pages a day. I never would have experienced this book. So that really hit me hard. Like, yeah, it took a couple months, but who cares? I'm not reading it for a deadline. Like, there's no deadline. It's not like I'm reading it for a project for school. It's just something I wanted to do. So why did I try to make it so difficult? And then I thought of, my journey of learning Spanish. I thought on that, I reflected on that for a bit, and I thought, well, I stopped learning Spanish for a while too when I was pregnant and postpartum, just because of how exhausted I was and didn't feel well. So how come over the past 6 years that I've been learning it, why is this the thing that I didn't give up on? If I had this all or nothing mindset with all these other things like losing weight or, reading a book, if I had the all or nothing mindset and expected things to happen so fast with those things, why was Spanish different for me? And I really sat there and I thought, okay, I know the difference. It was because I had no pressure on myself, because learning Spanish was just like a pure passion for me. Whereas losing weight, the goal, yeah, I'm really passionate about the end goal to lose a lot of weight. But the steps it takes to get there, they're not always fun. And so, of course, when I didn't see results as fast as I wanted to, of course I didn't want to try anymore, because I didn't believe in the long game and I wasn't passionate about each step on the way. There are times when I didn't feel like really working out. There are times when I didn't feel like eating healthy food. Like, I do love having a healthy lifestyle. I do love a lot of healthy foods and a lot of workouts, but let's be honest, I don't love every second of it. I'm not super passionate about eating an apple. I'm not super passionate about doing HIIT workouts. There are some days I like them more than others, but the passion that I have for Spanish is not even a comparison to these other things that I had given up on. And so I thought, well, the reason that I didn't give up on learning Spanish is because I honestly didn't care about the end goal of learning Spanish. I just loved the journey of it. Whereas with losing weight, all I cared about was the end goal, and I didn't really enjoy the journey. And so when I first started learning Spanish, I did this beginners program, and it was like all the basics, grammar, vocabulary. And I guess a part of me in my mind thought, well, when I finish this program, I'm going to be super fluent. But I wasn't obsessed with just becoming fluent. I really did enjoy every step of the way. And so I finished the program and realized that I was, in fact, not fluent. And I was like, that's odd. I know so much vocabulary. I know all of the grammar rules, but I still can't speak fluently. Like, it sounds like a robot when I talk because I really have to think of what I'm saying. And when native speakers talk, it still sounds like blah, 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 because it is so fast for me still, and I'm not catching everything they're saying. And so if I weren't passionate about learning the language, I would have given up. Why did I spend all this time on this program? It took months to do, and I feel like I know a lot of stuff, but I'm still not fluent. That's BS. I would have just given up, because that's what I did when I would try to lose weight and expect results fast. But really, I had learned a lot. It's hard to learn grammar and vocabulary in a second language as an adult. And so the only thing that kept me going and made me figure out, where do I go now? Because I can't just keep doing programs. Like, I have to actually use the language and find different ways to practice. I can't just expect one program to make me 100% fluent. And so the only thing that kept me going was my passion for learning it and not putting pressure on an end goal. Sure, I wanted to become fluent one day, but the happiness I felt while learning on the journey was way more important to me. I didn't realize this, but looking back, I think that's why I didn't give up. After those periods of time where, after I finished that program and thought I would be fluent, but I wasn't, I didn't give up because I loved learning it. Those periods of time where I stopped learning Spanish because I just didn't feel good and was exhausted, I picked it up again when I felt better because I just had such a passion for it. And so if I didn't have that passion for the journey, I would have quit a long time ago. And so that made me think, that's what, like, in the end, I right now am very fluent in Spanish because of consistency. But it's hard for us to do the things that we know are going to work long term. It's hard for us to accept that we have to be consistent because a lot of times we're just so focused on getting to the end goal because we don't really enjoy the journey. But if you just do a little bit at a time, make it more enjoyable by not putting so much pressure on yourself, by still, eating the unhealthy foods, but eating healthy foods too. If you just are consistent, you can still reach the goal. So it's just been really, really mind-blowing for me because, like I said, we hear all the time, consistency is key, consistency is key. But until you actually go through the whole process of trying to get it done quickly and it not working, and then trying the old consistency is key method, until you see how much of a difference that actually makes, when you hear someone say consistency is key, it's going to be annoying because it doesn't have meaning to you because you didn't give it a shot and you didn't see that it actually does work. So this has been like mind-blowing for me. And the thing is that once you start seeing the results, you're so used to doing it, they've become habits, they've become routines, you actually enjoy them now. It's so easy to keep doing them. So it doesn't even seem like a chore anymore. So that is my little rant about consistency and how, even though it can sound so boring and so annoying, it really is the key. And we kind of need to take this pressure off of ourselves to get it done perfectly, to get it done fast, because I don't think that's ever sustainable and it can make us miserable. So it's better to gradually chip away at something and to get consistent with it. All right. So I would love to hear your feedback on this. I would love if you enjoyed this video, if you could like it, share it, subscribe to my channel. That would be fantastic. And I can't wait to have another chat with everybody, do another podcast. Getting back into my podcast again. If you have any suggestions or if you have anything that you would like me to talk about, please let me know. I love taking recommendations. But until next time, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day.